All right, let's close these drapes.
Are these two different ones?
Jackie?
Yes,
Yeah.
same ones. Okay.
Do you remember that, Jackie?
What?
That was our whole fireplace. Mine did a twist in the last earthquake. My double went, turned.
Do you have any other damage besides that?
I lost 2 fireplaces, front wall,
Oh, boy.
but I fixed it. It's all fixed.
Well, that's good. Earthquake insurance is so expensive and the deductibles are so high that we
It's
just
not, it's
decided.
almost not worth getting the insurance because you might as well just take and throw a firebomb in your house and make it look like it's caught on fire.
Yeah.
The fire insurance will take care of
Yeah,
it. too.
unfortunately, that's very illegal.
That's true.
I know. But people do it.
Of course.
Well, people do a lot of things, but we shouldn't do that.
No, we shouldn't.
As agents,
No.
But if you
And
took your.
I'm just saying that that's what people will do
yeah.
because it's cheaper than the fire and then the earthquake insurance will
Yeah.
cover.
I never thought of that.
Good for you.
But
I'm
never
glad.
entered my mind.
No,
If
sure.
you take your premiums and put them into savings, you'll probably be ready
Yeah.
for the next earthquake.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
exactly.
And the deductible, like I said.
Right.
And I have earthquake insurance, and I hope that I can keep it up, because,
I was lucky that my house was actually bolted down. And it was bolted down way back in the 30s. Usually they didn't do that. They usually
Yeah.
just set it down and just left it alone. And that way the house would just do this and bounce off the foundation. That's what happened downtown where a lot of houses were actually, they were bounced off their foundation and then you see the houses having to be set up back up and then put down, bolted down.
Huh. I live in Agora and we're in an area that our house was built on solid granite. So when the earthquake hit, it just jolted the house. But my sister-in-law and brother-in-law who live around the corner, their house was built on fill. And when the earthquake hit, everything just swayed back and forth and up and down. And they had a lot of things falling off the shelves, but ours was just a jolt, so we were lucky.
We were close to the epicenter of that. So.
Oh, you were?
Yes.
I had a 4-poster bed and it ripped all the screws out and we were laying on the floor.
Oh. My wife is in property management and one of her buildings was totally demolished up in Reseda. I guess it's Northridge, Park Ridge. It's,
Is that
Is that
the
the
one
one
where
that-
it was
that-
3
That's-
floors
yes,
and then there
that was the
two?
one, that was her building and they had
Oh
to
my
reconstruct
God.
the whole thing. It's,
I know
Did
we
they have
drove
now.
earthquake insurance?
We,
I don't know if they did or not, but she represents the owners and then oversees the managers. And she's been in property management a long, long time. So, and they still
What company
manage the
does she
building.
work for?
Property Management Associates.
Oh,
I don't know if, you probably haven't heard of them. There are a lot of different companies. They're located in Culver City.
oh, okay.
There you go.
And she drives from Agoura
Yeah.
to Culver City?
Yeah, she hasn't gone to work but once or twice a week and she takes the coast.
Oh,
It
okay.
can take anywhere from 1 hour to 2.5 hours,
Oh, my
depends.
goodness.
Yeah.
I just remember that house on Pacific Coast Highway that was on the edge, and it was over the edge
Oh.
afterward. Remember, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
That house that was on the edge. Every time we drive down the Pacific Coast Highway, that's gonna go over, that's gonna go over, and then the earthquake came and it went over.
Jeez.
That's the one
Right
there, right
on the edge.
above Santa Monica Canyon
Uh-huh.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When that house was there, falling off that ledge for years, 10 years it was, and I felt so sorry for the homeowners. I'm going, here he has $1 million property and it's worth a
At
diddly
least,
squat.
yeah.
Nobody wants it. He's probably been trying to sell it for 20 years and nobody wants it.
Yeah.
Just,
It was probably worth more after the house fell off, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Do you both have business cards with you? Or after the meeting, give me your business cards. You've got them somewhere, maybe.
No,
no,
we don't have a license yet.
man,
Oh,
I'm still working on it.
well, then this is a good meeting for you.
I need money.
Yeah, I got yours. I'm Dave, I'm with Property ID, and I don't know if he wants to record this, but I'll kind of give you an introduction here. Randy and I go way back, because I started in title insurance back in 1985 or 86.
Somewhere there.
Yeah, and reason why I bring title insurance up is you're going to be exposed to that, home warranty companies, NHD companies, if you haven't already. And we're all affiliated with the industry, and we're all there to provide different reports, title, escrow. The thing about title insurance, it's overseen by a governing body, this Department of Insurance. I don't know if you're aware of that or if you've heard of it, but that's important to know because if a homeowner has an issue with their title and the title company no longer exists, because they seem to come and go. Land America, I don't know if you ever heard about them. They used to exist, CalCount, anyways. If a homeowner has an issue on their title policy and the company no longer exists, they can go to the Department of Insurance for any satisfaction of any claims. Same with escrow. Escrow is regulated by the Department of Business Oversight, and if there's an issue with an escrow that no longer exists, they can go to that governing body. The thing about this NHD industry, it's not regulated. So the issue comes up on an NHD report where a company no longer exists, all that responsibility and liability go back to the real estate agent. Because it's your responsibility, fiduciary responsibility, to pick and choose a third-party report provider in good faith. And in good faith means you've done your due diligence, you've researched the different companies, you know there are differences. With this industry, because we're not regulated, content and price vary from company to company. And I'll get into that a little bit later. And if you have any questions at any time, just feel free to ask. Because you're new, some of this information is new to you. Eventually you'll all get it, not just the NHD, but everything else.
We have also some very experienced folks here.
Yes, yeah, you can always rely on Stuart and Randy, and also some of the other experienced agents in the office.
Sorry.
But if ever you have any questions about real estate, certainly go to them. Don't assume anything and don't do anything without the fact that you're sure of what you're doing.
Of course.
So anyways, it's your responsibility to pick and choose home warranty, title, escrow, NHD. The NHD report is required on all resale transactions, whether or not they're for sale owners, which are FSBOs, industrial, commercial, residential, of course, vacant land, mobile homes, foreclosure, short sales, required on all resale transactions. Yeah. Also, the NHD report is only required in the state of California. It's not required in any other state.
I'm sorry.
Goodness, that's all right. Not required in any
I
other
knew this was gonna
state.
happen.
Oh dear. Another thing about the NHD report, a lot of people aren't aware of this, it requires a 3-day right of rescission. So I always recommend get your NHD report up front. If you're the listing agent, you can order that report before you even open escrow.
Is it 3 days, really?
Yeah,
That the buyer has to review the report?
yep, and the signatures, everything has to be done. If escrow is due to close tomorrow and all that hasn't been done, legally it can't close the next day. So, see, been in the industry so long, you learn something every day, don't you, Stuart?
Well, I ask a lot of questions.
No, that's
as
good.
No, I ask a lot of questions even though
Oh, I see what
I know
you're
the
saying.
answers.
And that's good too. Let's see. All right, I've got some flyers here and I'll go through them. And we're not gonna take a long time today, maybe a half hour, 40 minutes. It just depends on the questions and answers. If I see I'm losing you, then I'll just end my presentation, but.
Do you have an extra report also?
Yeah,
Okay.
2 of them. One's an
Perfect.
environmental and the other one is the mandatory.
Quick question, does
Yeah.
the buyer provide the report or the seller?
Seller's
Selling
the
agent.
one, the listing agent, the listing agent and the seller pay for the report. But that's all negotiable too.
Now, is this a real report? Oh, this is.
Yeah.
This is for Alaman and San Jose, or
But
there's
they're
different
the ones that
properties?
need to provide it to the
Different
seller,
prop-
to the buyer, right?
Yeah, yeah. The listing agent should be ordered either by the listing agent at the time of the listing or escrow will order it. And it's important to put in your residential purchase agreement who you want for your NHD company. Because if you leave it blank, The other agent might fill that in, the selling agent, and you might not get who you want. Or sometimes escrow could fill it in, although they're not supposed to. They're supposed to leave that up to the agents. But that's
So
important
when
to
you're making an
remember.
offer, you can put in the company that you
Mhm.
want.
Yeah, in the negotiations, you'll probably put in title, escrow, home warranty, NHD, all that stuff.
So if I have a customer who's selling, we shouldn't do the report before we get a contract then?
You can get the report before the contract,
Right, but what if,
When you
what
get
if
the
the,
listing.
what if the buyer picks a different company?
then
have
we
to
won't
pay for it
charge you.
twice?
No,
Okay.
and that's what I was gonna get to.
Oh,
If-
okay, sorry.
No, that's all right. That's a good question.
Does it happen all the time?
Nitty-gritty.
No, not usually. In fact, if you're representing the buyer, you're the
Right.
selling agent, and you put in the residential purchase agreement who you want for NHD, and if the listing agent already got title and escrow, 99% of the time they won't counter you. And you have some leverage. If they have already gotten and negotiated for title and escrow, you can say, hey, look, this is my buyer, I wanna make sure that they've got the most complete, thorough, and accurate report in the industry, and I prefer that we go with Property ID as opposed to any other NHD company, and you got what you wanted, this is what I want for my buyer. If price is ever an issue, cause sometimes it might be, our report's $114, and that includes the environmental report, which I've given you a sample
Right.
of. The environmental report's not required by law, although the main report is. The environmental report covers any man-made hazards, like any leaking tanks, septic tanks, gas, oil wells that are leaking, any toxic waste areas, liquid or solid, so any man-made hazards. The basic report covers environmental, natural
How
hazards.
much extra is the environmental?
It's normally $49,
Okay.
but we offer it at no additional charge upon request. So for $114, you're getting our report plus the environmental, which is normally
This is what I
$49.
have here, the environmental.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not required by law, it's a separate report. We started offering it no additional cost about almost 2 years ago, because on the residential purchase agreement, when you request your NHD company, right below that, there's a box that you can check for the environmental report. A lot of agents just automatically check it, not really knowing what they're checking. So we decided we'll just include that in our report upon
If it's
request.
checked, only if it's requested.
Yeah, only if it's requested. But I always tell escrows, I tell agents, request that environmental report with property ID. Other companies, if you request it, they'll probably charge you extra for it, which will increase the rate, the product, and the cost of their product substantially. As I said before, it's an unregulated industry. Content and price vary. I've seen reports as low as $49, and there's an old saying, you get what you pay for. I've seen them as high as $139. Some of the NHD companies, I don't quite know, they've got various prices for different reports. There's one 79, 89, 109, whatever. We just have one price for one report. We give you full coverage. And one of the things, well, I'll
What
probably
is
get to
that,
this.
basically, what does that cover? Do you take the ground samples, things like that?
No, we don't take ground samples. That would be a geologist, that would be a special inspection. We just focus on natural hazards like fire, flood, earthquake, liquefaction, things like that. Liquefaction, by the way, I don't know if you're aware of it, we probably are. And the way I describe it in lay terms, liquefaction is hard soil that turns into soft soil
Exactly.
due to saturations and such.
And it usually happens on soft soils like sand and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Normally
Monica.
Santa Monica has
Yep.
a lot
We have a lot of area.
Oh, yeah.
But not in the San Fernando Valley.
Oh, no, there's a ton of
There are
There is
sections,
some?
yeah,
big section.
yeah.
Really?
I was
There's-
surprised. I
Oh,
think that
surprised.
environmental report's almost more important than the natural hazards report, to be honest with you.
I didn't think so.
Yeah,
I had one recently over in Silver Lake, and the guy never had any issues with it, but I read through it, and there were empty gas tanks, there were
Oh.
soil contamination, there were all kinds of stuff. I mean, we live on pretty much an oil field.
yeah,
Wow.
Well, where I live, it's basically, it was one of the biggest nut fields in the hole in San Fernando. I live on Rancho Reseda.
Oh, wow.
I
Huh.
have one of the original houses on Rancho Reseda, which was nut farms.
Wow, yeah, back then.
His house was built in '38, so it was one of his houses.
It's interesting to see pictures. I grew up in Long Beach, California, and growing up there, anytime I'd come to the valley was already established. But if you go out Camarillo, Oxnard, Ventura, they had that one road with all the trees on the side. I mean, it's come a long ways. But liquefaction, another way I describe it, if you've got a block of granite and you put a 5-pound weight on top of it and shake it, the weight's gonna just shake back and forth.
Exactly.
If you put the same 5-pound weight on top of a bed of sand, it sinks. So, that's one
Well,
way
I
to
live on
describe it.
adobe, so I know the difference.
But yeah,
I know that I've crawled underneath the house, and I
Oh.
have big old craters underneath like that, and you know that it's clay, it's breaking open, so it just, I swear you can stick your hand down it.
oh geez. Anyways, let me get back to the flyer here.
Go ahead.
Again, not all NHD companies are the same. Property ID protects you, and I started to get into this before. When you order a report, and this covers not just you, it covers Stewart, it covers escrow, everyone involved, you're covered under our E&O insurance for the report itself, not for other E&O issues. But you're covered completely, you're a named insured under our insurance. We've got a $20 million insurance policy. One of our insureds, or one of the insureds is Lloyd's of London. But that's important to know that if there is an issue or a problem, we don't have any disclaimers or limits of liability. Nobody's more accurate. I've done comparisons between our report and other company reports, and I think you've got one of these in there. Not this one particularly, but it kind of looks like this. I don't know if your set has them, Randy and Stuart.
Yeah,
Yours
I have
probably
that.
does.
At that, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think, oh, you do have it?
Yeah, we have.
Okay. Anytime I've done a comparison between our company and any other NHD company, there are at least 15 to 20 items they have not disclosed, or they've disclosed incorrectly. Anytime something's not disclosed or disclosed incorrectly, puts you at risk. And you can see some of the items that weren't disclosed: wind erosion, expensive soils. For whatever reason, they don't put that in their reports. I've been told that one of the reasons is their insurance doesn't cover those areas or those disclosures. But there is a difference, and at the bottom you can see the price differentials, and when you take the number of disclosures we have and divide it into the 114 or whatever we're charging you, because we can go as low as $89 if price is an issue. Ours is about $268 per disclosure. The other companies, they're as high as $417 per disclosure because they've got half as many disclosures. So there are differences in content. We are the most accurate, and I always dare the agents to compare. I'll run you a free comparison on any closed file. You give me a report from another NHD company, I'll give you one of our reports, and we could actually do a comparison just like this for free. So that's something to keep in mind. 100% made in America. I'm proud of the fact that we don't outsource to another state or country. It would be less expensive. But all of our reports come out of our downtown LA office. We cover all of California. And what we do, right at the top of this thing, 100% California Jobs Company, which basically refers to the fact that we create jobs for Californians, which create more home buyers, which in turn creates more opportunity for us. So that's important. Made in America, proven integrity. We were the first NHD company created by our owner back in 1976. This report wasn't actually required by law until 1999, and it wasn't a line item on the HUD-1 statement like title until 2009. So it's relatively new. The reports have always been there, but not required by law until 1999. Customer service is always there for you. You can call them 24/7. If they can't answer a question, they'll send it to our legal counsel, which we have in-house. If you are going over this report with your buyers, don't answer any questions. Write the questions down. Don't call me. I'm not an expert. You're not an expert. Call my customer service. Let them assume liability for what they tell your buyer. Because if you say something wrong, then it could come back to you. So, you know, with this industry, when I started back in '86, there was no such class as risk management. Now they've got classes in risk management, which help to protect you in terms of how you write things. So customer service is always there. I'll get back to the fact that if you order a report when you get the listing, again, if the listing doesn't sell, if it expires, we don't charge you. Well, let us know that it expired. If you're countered in the RPA, let us know that the other agent demanded another company. Let us know. If it goes in escrow and doesn't sell, or it doesn't close, I should say, it's already sold, we don't charge you for the report. So it basically, there's a civil code that not many agents or people, I don't know if you're aware of this, Stuart, but the listing agent should have available to any prospective buyers the natural hazard information at any open houses or when they get the listing. It's not usually followed, but it's part of the civil code. Okay, we've done customer service, we've done the comparisons, and any of these flyers I can get more of if you'd like. If you've got any listing presentations, you'd like to include them. This one flyer is kind of helpful because it talks about natural hazards and why the report and what's in the report. Just basic information that kind of helps you explain to any sellers or buyers why they're ordering the report. Okay, the other flyers, next ones, I've given you 3 flyers that are perfect for marketing. And I think you've got all 3 there. The first one is basically something that talks about how agents can get listings. And it's common sense information, but we're not always aware of it or we forget things. But this came off of our website. And our website, didn't give you one of these flyers because our website has changed. But go to the website, it's www.propertyid.com. It will ask you for a Platinum ID and a password. Because you're a new subscriber, you go where it says new agent, new listing, new information required, fill that out. Within 48 hours, we will send you a Platinum ID and a password. Password you can customize once you get it. But I strongly recommend go to the website. You can order your reports online. You can also get sale activity and you give zip code over the last 5 years. But most importantly, there's an articles library. And I don't know if it's listed as that. It might just be articles for reading. But this flyer, How Agents Get New Listing, came from the articles library. It's got hundreds of articles on hundreds of different topics. This next one, Keeping Your Home Safe While You're Away, came off that website also. This is great for marketing purposes. And if you're doing any kind of marketing at all, whether or not you're door knocking or you're sending emails to your sphere of influence or you're doing mailers, it's important to give the homeowner something of value, something that they're going to keep and they're going to read. Sure, you're going to do the just listed and just solds, but these kinds of things, again, common sense information, but it's going to get their attention hopefully. And they say it takes at least 6 or 7 hits before they're even going to start recognizing you're a realtor. And you've got to be consistent with farming. You can't just do 2 or 3 times a year. You've got to do it on a regular basis. So this is a valuable piece. There are other items that I also have available. This is not on the website, but I can send you this in a PDF file. Again, all of these flyers and articles, you can customize. You can put your name on it, your company name, you can email them, you can translate into 52 different languages. This flyer, if you'd like, I can send you a PDF file, you can customize it. This is helpful also because it tells the homeowner what to do in case of an emergency. And on the back, it's got a little checklist. So again, something of value, something that they would keep, hopefully. Okay, I mentioned that NHD companies are different in content and price. A couple of articles I gave you this one. And this one talks about an issue that took place with another NHD company, happens to be Disclosure Source. Disclosure Source is owned by Fidelity. And in this case, Disclosure Source issued an NHD report, and in it, they made a mistake. They mentioned that the Melrose taxes were only $80 per year. They were $1,800 per year. Big difference. What happened was it went to court, and the judge ruled in favor of Disclosure Source, because on the back of all of our reports, there are terms and conditions. And in their report, there is, one of the conditions or terms states that they're not responsible or liable for any errors or omissions. So because it's written in their terms and conditions, the judge ruled in favor of Disclosure Source. So that's a case that happened. This one, this isn't the one I wanted to give you, but this talks about contaminated neighborhoods. Again, this falls in line with the environmental report we were talking about. One of the other cases that I was going to give you involved a woman that in the Bay Area back in 2004 bought a house for $950,000, and she went through a real estate friend of hers. That real estate agent ordered her report through Property ID. Well, the woman decided to sell the house 5 years later. She made a great profit, $1.8 million, doubled her profit. And she didn't go through her real estate friend. She went through a different agent. Well, I'm sure her friend was a little bit upset, but her friend also told her that if you don't get a report from Property ID, then you have to disclose the fact that in Property ID's report, there is the fact that your house is in a liquefaction zone. Well, she didn't listen to her friend. She went through a different agent. The other agent got a report from another energy company, did not include the liquefaction disclosure, and she sold the house. Well, about 3 or 4 years later, the buyer and the buyer's agent found out that this wasn't disclosed, that it wasn't a liquefaction, so they sued the seller. And in this case, the seller decided she would declare bankruptcy, hoping that that suit would be included in her bankruptcy. Not this time, The judge ruled in favor of the buyer and the buyer's agent, said that the seller was negligent in not disclosing the information, that she was responsible for doing so, found in favor of the buyer and the buyer's agent. I think it was, how much was it? $250,000, something like that. And then to carry that a step further, not only was the agent or the seller responsible, but her agency was responsible also. Total damages were like $600,000, something like that. So lawsuits in this industry can be as much as the value of the home. When you're talking about other lawsuits, termite lawsuit might be $5,000 or $6,000, roofing might be 10 or 12, but in this industry, it can be as much as hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's important that you do get a complete report and that all disclosures are made.
You could argue it had she never gotten the property ID, then she would have been.
You could,
You could argue in the other direction.
yeah, but it was a record.
Less is more.
Yeah. But it was,
I don't see anything, I don't hear anything.
You're
not,
not to know.
I know. Well, I mean, she had it as a buyer, so she should have given that courtesy to
yeah.
to her buyer, yeah.
Well, and she was probably afraid that it would ruin the deal, that the buyer would back
It
out.
would have been cheaper.
But better to disclose than not, especially when you have that information.
Yeah, but wouldn't you assume that when you sold a house, especially in near a beachfront, it's gonna be liquefaction anyways? 90% of the time, anything built on sand or anything near the beach is liquefaction. No matter if it's in a report or not, it's liquefaction. You should
Well,
know that offhand.
But in this
And I'm thinking-
case, it was a disclosing, it was ill will on the seller's part.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
She knew and didn't disclose.
Yeah, but the buyer should have known too, because, you know, that sounds like, to me like, oh, I can make a little money on this and walk out a champ if I just put a little lawsuit on it. And basically, cause you know what? If you're gonna buy a house on the beach, 90% of the time, you know it's liquefaction. I'm not that naive and stupid and say, oh, it's not disclosed, oh, I know it
But
isn't.
you don't
A
know
lot
who
of
the
people
buyer
aren't,
is, a
yeah.
lot of people don't know,
They're
yeah.
not that educated. But I know what you're saying, and you can't really assume anything.
Yeah,
But it
but
would
it
be
could
something.
be, it could be that the buyer knew it, but he needed a little extra capital here and there, and he basically won because of her negligence in disclosing it.
if the buyer knew that when she bought the house, she got a report from property ID, buyer probably didn't know that. And probably didn't know about the liquefaction, or like you said, could have researched it.
Could have researched it, found it, didn't see that it was listed.
Sounds like
And
the buyer had a
basically-
good attorney.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
That's what it sounds like.
That's what it sounds like. It sounds like the buyer found out and said, oh, I got a
Oh,
little
the buyer
niche
got
here.
had a
I got a
good
little niche
attorney.
Is there
here.
a statute of limitations on that stuff?
we are responsible for anything that we report at the time, at the close of escrow. If something
50
occurs,
years down the line?
if something else happened after we disclose the report, no. We're just responsible for everything disclosed at that time. If a year or two later, something comes up, the flood zone is raised, or it's a higher fire hazard area because of a drought, we're not responsible for that.
As a matter of fact, they're even responsible for giving bad information if it's part of the government maps.
Inaccurate, you mean?
Completely, yeah, the maps, because they're not going over what's real. They're only reporting what the maps.
It's public
say.
data.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Okay.
We don't include maps in our reports, some of the other companies do. It's not required by law, and the reason why we don't is because they're not always to scale. And if you're gonna try to interpret that map and you interpret it the wrong way, then you could be liable for giving misinformation. So we don't include the maps.
But the way that they get the information is from maps.
Yeah, but we don't include that. We'll normally disclose anything within a quarter-mile radius. If something's 2 or 3 miles away, we don't disclose it. Even though it might, even if it's environmental, we could conceivably disclose it, like the oil leaks in Porter Ranch. That might be in that report. And anywhere up to a quarter mile, sometimes it might be 500-600 feet, whatever. I was gonna say something else. Oh, as far as statute of limitations, if you're involved in a long escrow, and short sales can be very long, so I call them long escrows. If you're involved in something like that, after 6 months, get an updated version of our report, call in, have escrow call. Most of the time, there might not be any changes, but just in case, in title industry, right before escrow is gonna close, a title company will provide a date down. Date down is basically updated information for the prelim. So with this industry also, after 6 months, if there are no changes, we'll just issue an addendum saying no changes. Who signs the NHD? Both parties are supposed to sign it. I've got some selling agents that refuse to sign it. In spite of the fact if they refuse to sign it, they are still liable. All parties are responsible and liable. So this is something that if you wanted, again, additional information, additional flyers. Clue report. Have you been exposed to the clue report? Do you know what it is?
No clue.
Okay, no clue. Clue report's not required by law. What the clue report is, it gives insurance claim information. You don't have this flyer.
Oh, okay.
Over a 5-year, and what I'm gonna do is, I'll give you this and you can copy it, put it in everyone's slots. But it gives any insurance claim information over a 5-year period. This is important if you've got a seller that's only been there for 2 or 3 years. They don't know what transpired prior to their moving in, prior to any insurance claims. Now, lenders have this information also. We used to provide this information up until November or December of last year.